Hi everyone, welcome back to the London Football Show. Thought it's time for another episode. We'll go straight into it. James, West Ham, solid start to the season, continuing, and you could just sum up the last few games and obviously European football as well tonight.
Yeah, no worries. Hi, everyone. Yeah, well, we've done quite well. I sort of started tonight's first half. We've done well. We're coming to 2-1 up, so hopefully we can hold on to another win. That'll secure another win in the Europa League, 2 wins out of two. With seven, only two defeats in nine. But just worryingly, they were sort of like to Liverpool and Man City, home away. Got a good win on Saturday against Sheffield United. Just keeps us back up there. We've got a big game coming up this weekend against Newcastle. But I think the form is there. I think everyone will now realise that they've done well in terms of spending the money that they had over the summer. They took their time with it, but they've done really well. Glad to see Jared Bowen getting an England call up today in the England squad. But I think that James Ward-Prowse doesn't get a call up is beyond me. The geezer's unbelievable. Like, I always thought he was a good player, but having seen him a few times live, you just realise the quality of his set pieces, corners, free kicks, and he's even come up with a few good goals.
So hold, is
For West
Phillips
Ham.
what is Phillips in that England squad again? Yeah.
I believe so. I will get that confirmed. But regardless of whether he's in or not, Phillips, if he is, it makes it a bit of a scandal. But the biggest thing, I think Maguire's still in it. So,
Oh my.
so beyond me. But all I know is Jared Bowen made it in, and I believe Trent Alexander made it in as a midfielder. But don't quote me on that.
Wow.
You know, but as far as West Ham are concerned, yep, back to winning ways against Sheffield United. And tonight seems to be going all right. So we're happy. We're happy, I think, as a West Ham fan. A couple of tough games coming up. Like obviously, we've got Newcastle and the international break, I believe. But yeah, Newcastle will be interesting on the weekend. But we'll talk about that, I presume, a little bit later. But I don't think, as a West Ham fan, you can complain about the season. I think you've got to be back in it, and you've got to bear in mind as well, just quickly, David Moyes has had some new coaching staff, so he's got in a few people. He's got in a lad he had at Everton, who I think was abroad the last few seasons. I can't remember his name at the moment. I should have remembered that, but he's recouped in terms of his coaching staff as well. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, very happy as a West Ham fan, and also not just that, but also how West Ham are playing.
Zamfan, anything to add on West Ham? Any the games you've watched recently of them?
I think they started well, definitely. I think I was a bit skeptical how they would start, especially just off the back of the Conference League win back in Europa League. But they seem to be managing it well compared to other teams in the Prem. We saw Brighton lose the other week. We saw Villa lose as well. But West Ham seem to be doing fine. They seem to be in good form. Also above the likes of Newcastle, Brighton in the league as well. So they seem to be doing well.
Yeah, and to echo what you said, West Ham, I think the only two defeats, you're talking Man City, best team in world football right now, and Liverpool over the last 4 or 5 years, along with Man City, they've been the two standout teams in the country. So West Ham, if they continue to beat the teams like in and around them and the teams below them as they have done, like 100% they'll finish top seven, top eight, maybe even higher this season. So yeah, I've been very impressed with West Ham so far this season. James, anything else? Any final thoughts on West Ham before we move on? Or
No. I just think we're doing really well. I think we had a good winner against Lincoln, sets up a nice tie in the League Cup against Arsenal at home. So that'd be interesting. But yeah, just to confirm, Kelvin Phillips is in the midfield for the England squad.
My God.
With all due respect, he's got Jordan Henderson in there as well. Conor Gallagher. Conor Gallagher's done not too bad. You accept Jude Bellingham, obviously, and Declan Rice, but how he's not got James Ward-Prowse.
I want Southgate gone. I've wanted him gone for a while. I want him gone, man. I genuinely want him gone. Like I don't see how picking players that have done well for you in a tournament 2 3 years ago. Like that's outdated. That's outdated. And like, why aren't Spain still picking Sergio Ramos? Yeah, he won the World Cup 13 years ago now. Like it's done. This time moves on. James Ward-Prowse, as
I
you
can
said,
understand.
robbed. He's been robbed.
Sion, I get what you're saying. Just quickly on the England, I think I like Southgate. I think he's done really well, but I think he's losing a bit of credibility because when he first came manager, I'm almost certain that he was saying he would pick players on form
Yeah,
and on
I
how they
remember him
play.
saying that as well.
Well, how can you pick a player like Maguire and Kelvin Phillips and Jordan Henderson who aren't really playing or are playing in a league that even I could have a go at playing in goal?
Yeah, so I don't get it. But yeah, I'll move on to us. Chelsea beat Fulham, well, first win other than beating Luton. So this is actually the first team we've actually beaten that have been in the Prem for a couple seasons now. It was a decent performance, to be honest. It was one of those where like we scored 2 early goals, and then I think you could see in the players like, oh, this is a chance to actually finally win a game. So not pragmatic, but it was more about trying to see that game through to the end. I remember watching it with Rosamford, and as soon as it went 2-0 up, I was like, even me, 21 minutes, I was like, listen, we've not been in this position for weeks. We've been going a goal down, and then it's game over because our attack's not that good. We went a goal down to Nottingham Forest. They scored relatively early, just at the start of the second half. We had a good 40, 45 minutes, maybe even longer, 50 minutes plus with when you see games going to 100th minute now. And I knew we were never scoring once they got to about 60 minutes. Villa, Ollie Watkins scored relatively early. We still had a good 25 minutes, I believe, in that game to score. Nothing. So once we took the lead against Fulham, I was like, well, we need to try see this out now, which we did. And following that up, I mean, that win following up the Brighton win, the Carabao Cups, I'm hoping now that can sort of start to be the start of us turning our fortunes around. I'm glad to see Cole Palmer get his chance in the number 10. He got the assist for Jackson in the Carabao Cup game. So I was happy to see him start against Fulham. We need some consistency in our team now in terms of all the chopping and changing has to stop. So seeing him get his chance in the number 10 to continue from the Brighton game, hopefully that could be a position where he can hopefully cement himself in our starting 11. And yeah, we got Burnley on the weekend. Hopefully beat them, and then we take some sort of form into the international break, which we'll need because we come back straight away Arsenal. So we go into a difficult run of fixtures. Arsenal at home. Then I don't know the order, but Newcastle, Brentford, Man City are there, Spurs are there. So yeah, all the teams sort of in and around the top. Well, Spurs and Man City. Yeah, that won't be easy. So we hopefully need to beat Burnley and take some momentum into the international break. But yeah, I don't know. Any of you have anything you want to say on us, or move on? We'll move on.
I just find it like you did well there. You did well to find anything really to talk positively about.
Oh
But,
yeah. No, we've still this don't look, this doesn't detract from the fact that we've had an awful start to the season. I don't know. I know Rezamphan saw this, but I don't know if you saw this, James. After 5 games this season, I saw like this thing on Twitter, like where they looked at where everyone finished last season and like to work out like the difficulty of your fixtures. And we actually had the easiest start to this season in terms of when you look at the average position of where teams finished last season. And we found ourselves at that point, 16th? 1 win out of 5. Luton weren't even in this league. Obviously, West Ham last season, the league wasn't that great. Liverpool were the only anomaly. They were the only, and even they came 5th, and that was our toughest game on the first 5 games. So still had an awful start to the season, but now it's about trying to turn it around and hopefully reach a point maybe around December time, hopefully, where we could be anywhere near Europa League. Champions League is distant thought right now. Like we're nowhere near that. It's about trying to get ourselves as close to 6th as possible for me right now,
fair play.
And trying hopefully we continue our Carabao Cup run, because that's the only thing in terms of FA Cup. You never know what you're going to get. That's in January, long time away. FA Cup we've got. I mean, Carabao Cup we got.
I think you're spot on, Sion. And as we started with West Ham, we've moved to Chelsea. Now let's see what positive Rosamford can put on to Man United, because this would even be even more bigger if he manages to do this.
Oh, go on, Rosamford. Manchester United.
Oh dear.
Positives none. Let's move to the negatives then. I mean, I could probably go on and on and on, but I'll keep it brief. I think it's just a United cycle. I think we're used to it now. It's just something I've got to get accepted as a fan now. I thought maybe it could be different. Am I deluded? Maybe. Is it wishful thinking? Probably. Do I think it could change? Probably so. Ten Hag first season finished third, won a Carabao Cup, lost the FA Cup final. Probably could have done better in Europa League, but it was promising. Came into this season, terrible transfer window. Yes, it's our own doing, but Ten Hag had the money. He could have spent it. Look who he brought in. Didn't exactly bring in anyone. I'll be honest, I was very skeptical about Højlund. I wasn't, he hasn't really proven himself to me or to the fans or anyone in the football field, but he's been turning up. And for me, I do feel sorry for him out of majority of the players. All the other signings, Onana, I called it the start. I didn't rate him. I was very skeptical, very two big errors in both Champions League games. You just can't make these mistakes. And he's not some, young player that's getting started out. This is a Champions League runners up. He's been in this league. He's been through this. He's been in a big league like Serie A. He's won titles with them. So I don't understand why he's struggling when it comes to United. It can't be pressure. It just can't. Not as a 20-year-old, you can't accept that. The same fans that were slating De Gea last season, I need to see the same energy for Onana, because I didn't want De Gea either. I thought, okay, it couldn't get worse than De Gea. Okay, maybe Onana could be a bit better. I'm wrong. Honestly, I'd rather take De Gea back right now. It can't get worse than that. It actually can't. Yeah, it costed us massively in that game. Poor ball to give away to the Galatasaray player, which then Casemiro unfortunately had to slight tackle and concede the penalty, which has resulted in him getting sent off, and that's collateral on him. Yeah, Icardi missed the penalty, but then a few minutes later, he just dinked on Onana, and that was the game done. 3-2. Lost again. 3 home defeats in a row, 2 Premier League home defeats in a row. It's not looking good. I don't see a light at the end of the tunnel. I don't know where the solution is. I feel like the club is in turmoil. I can go on about Glazers, this and this, but even Glazers can't stop. It can't prevent you from losing to a Galatasaray. There's no excuse.
No.
Newcastle
You know what?
Newcastle beat
Go on.
PSG 4-1 yesterday, and we can't even beat Galatasaray. I'm gonna call it, like, Galatasaray is full of Premier rejects. Tanguy and Ndombele. Who else was there?
Davinson Sanchez.
Zaha. Davinson Sanchez, assistant from his own half with his header. Players watch players coming to Old Trafford and turning up. It's not good enough. It's not good enough.
I mean, other than Zaha, so yeah, obviously Zaha, he was Palace's best player, but the others, yeah, I understand what you mean. Ndombele, Davinson Sanchez, that Spurs flops almost. But like quickly, Højlund, I watched a couple like United fan channels after the game yesterday, and like they were spot on to me. Like every United player there, they owe Højlund an apology yesterday, because Højlund did everything a striker's performance. What a striker they're meant to do in their job description. Højlund, perfect. He's done his job. He didn't deserve to be on the losing side yesterday. And no, I saw United fans, some of them criticizing Casemiro, which I thought was harsh. Like, I know they said like let him go through and score, but like when you're there in the moment, you're not just gonna let a player score. You're gonna try and stop them. So, like for me, his red card is solely on Onana for that. Even though they didn't obviously score the penalty, but yeah, Onana, I don't know. I'm seeing United fans saying similar sort of story, comparing it to Fabian Barthez back in the day. World-class goalkeeper, but he came to United, obviously ball playing, risky at times, and ultimately didn't work. United, they were searching from once Michael left up until Van der Sar, all the goalkeepers in between. They were like, Fergie was sort of chopping and changing until he got Edwin Van der Sar. He had Taibbi, all them guys in between, Bosnich and stuff like that, and Barthez as well. So I don't know what you're going to do, the goalkeeping situation, because you drop Onana, dropping a goalkeeper is very different to dropping an outfield player. You drop a goalkeeper now, that could really sort of dent their confidence. So what do you do with Onana now? You have to back him. I don't know what you think, James, but how are you going to drop Onana
on that point, and I want to come back to Man United because we might drift off if we continue this point, but I want to raise that point what you're saying, Sion. I think you're spot on, but then you look at Arsenal, what they're doing with their goalkeepers. Like where does Ramsdale go with this? Could he go to Man United in January? If Man United's situation's thing. The bottom line is, I think the goalkeeper was not impressed, and I think that turned out to be probably, I don't want to speak out of turn, but probably one of the biggest buys you had to make in the summer when you knew you were getting rid of your old keeper. you had to get a decent keeper. And I think when you got him, I think everyone was expecting him to be better and expecting him to do well for United, and it just hasn't happened. Some of the goals he's conceded, he's like, if he's 20, then he dives like a 40-year-old. I'm sorry, because it's like so slow getting down to things. But the interesting thing, and I had a little dig at you, Sion, about how you've made that a little bit good for Chelsea. The Samson's spot on with one thing, and until this happens, it's not going to improve. United fans have got to stop going on about the Glaziers and all that at the moment. It's got absolutely nothing to do with a takeover, the Glaziers. It's to do with the football environment. How can he go from having a season like he had last season, the manager, to what's happened so far this season? Something is not right with the fundamentals of training and playing. That's the bottom line at the moment. And if United don't fix that, it does not matter who owns the club at this stage. Because quite frankly, if they don't do anything, they've went from going downhill when Ferguson left and they had all them managers. Then they slowly brought it up with Ollie. Then he had a wobble. Then they replaced him with Ten Hag. And he slowly brought it up last season. And now they're going back down. And they can't afford to do that because the bottom line is, the unfortunate thing is, you won't get the players at United. They won't want to go because if they want to come to the Premier League, you've got teams like Man City, Liverpool, Chelsea, Tottenham now, all doing well that will attract those players because United haven't got that credibility that they have. So I think the Samson's spot on, but I don't know what it is. I don't know. Can he name his decent midfield? Has he got an out-and-out striker? You know, who's he playing at the back? You know, then you've got the goalkeeper issues. You know, it's as if he's got players. I was watching Man United a couple of times recently. I didn't see the Champions League. But when I look at Man United, they've got far too many players that are impact players that are good for 15, 20 minutes. They need players that can last 90 minutes. That's their problem and can dominate. But they haven't sort of got that, unfortunately, at the moment. That's what I think.
Yeah, I'll just quickly before we move on with United in terms of like some of the players almost similar to us in terms of when I say playing players out of position. For me, this whole Amrabat experiment I left back, I just can't believe it. I absolutely can't believe it because I've seen the low play left back for United before. Obviously not frequently, but once in a while if there's no like other alternatives. So I don't know why and I've seen Lindelof play right backs for Sweden and Man United. So you've got Lindelof there. Johnny Evans has actually been, when he's played, arguably their best player. He was the man of the match against Burnley. He was their man of the match against Burnley.
That alone sums it up. That alone sums it up.
I know. But you know, for the games, for like this current run of games where obviously Lissandro is now injured until I think, is it sometime around Christmas? You've got Evans and Varane. So you've got two centre-backs. Obviously, Evans is not the long-term solution. But for right now, you've got Evans and Varane. Lindelof's played right back before. Delo's played left back before. Casemiro needs help with the defensive side of the game. Obviously, he's aging, and he's playing with like the likes of like Bruno, Mount, that their sort of defensive awareness is not there. They're not defensive players. They're more about what you do going forward. They can help, but they're not seasoned in terms of defending. You got Amrabat that could play in a double pivot with Casemiro, and I don't think it's happened once. So I just don't get it. I don't know what the aim of this is with this Amrabat left back.
What would be your lineup? What would be your formation at least, or lineup?
At this moment, or are we talking
just at this moment to take you forward? To like bring a bit of consistency to it. To bring how many home games have you lost already this season?
3, 2 in the Prem and 1 Champions League.
Wow.
That's unheard of so early in this season.
I don't get Amrabat and Casemiro. For me, it's a no-brainer, just them two in the midfield. I saw Amrabat come on against Burnley. I was like, what?
You're playing 4 at the back, and then what is it, a 3-3? Or is it 2-3-1?
Probably 3 in the middle and 1 up front. Oh, it's going to be 4-2-3-1. But it's the problem of we have no wins. Let's be real. On the left, we have Rashford, fair enough. On the right, for me, Pellistri is just not good enough to start. I saw him against Galatasaray. Hannibal, I said Hannibal as well. I think it was Crystal Palace, he was poor, Pellistri. Hannibal didn't really make a performance. I understand they're young, but these aren't players that you start in a big Champions League game. They're not. These aren't the times where you showed them to prove themselves. You have Garnacho just sitting on the bench doing nothing. He's been proving himself the past season. What's he done to be benched? Nothing. And then the whole situation with Sancho, Anthony, it's just a meh. It's not going forward. I mean, Rashford's gone back to his old roots of just being greedy, just pinging it into this Rosed.
I mean, you know what? When you look at sort of not just on field, but when you look at like obviously with the Sancho stuff and you're looking at the drama, like United have actually probably managed arguably to overtake us in terms of being in crisis and turmoil right now. I don't know how, but in terms, especially off the pitch, on the pitch, we're both kind of similar at the moment in terms of when you look at the league. Well, I think United are a point above us, but off the pitch, United is a mess. It's an absolute mess with fans, obviously, the Glazers, all that stuff with the ownership. You can even put that aside. You've got the Sancho, Anthony, what's going on with them off the pitch as well. I've seen obviously United fans leaks from dressing room about apparently Rashford like sulking during games, all this sort of stuff. They're back. The leaks are back at United now, so I don't know.
What's the next few games for Sanford? Just out of curiosity.
Brentford at home, and then I believe there's one away game. Can't remember which one, and I think I've got Man City at home.
Man City at home. Oh God, Man United fixtures. Let's see.
That's in the Prem.
Why we're looking at that? Brighton have pulled it back 2-2, 89th minute penalty, 2-2. Pedro. West Ham are still hanging on 2-1, but we're into the line minutes.
Okay. But United got Brentford, then they got Sheffield United away, then the Copenhagen home game, and then Man City. That's the rest of
October. So them two next Premier League games, Brentford and Sheffield United, you've got to win them both, and you've got an international break in between. Yeah, so bloody hell.
Right. Well, moving into the previews of the upcoming fixtures. Before we move into our clubs, we'll start with the big game on Sunday at the Emirates, Arsenal Man City. Just ask you all for brief thoughts on that and score prediction. I'll go first. Obviously, Arsenal saw a lot of fans complain in midweek. They wanted Saka rested because Saka, he's played a lot of football, not just over the past season, pretty much since he broke through about 3-4 years ago now. And yeah, obviously, I think he's injured and I think he's missing the game. I don't know how long he's out for, but I don't think he's there for the game. Obviously,
still been selected for the England squad.
Oh, okay, wow. Obviously, before Saka's injury, I really thought Arsenal, this could be it in terms of their chance. They haven't beaten Man City since 2015 in the league. Obviously, Rodri's suspended, and I watched the Wolves Man City game. It is the worst game I've seen Man City play in a while. And for me, it's no coincidence. For me, I've always said Rodri. For me, he's the linchpin of Man City. Obviously, you've got De Bruyne and Haaland. We know what they can do, but I've seen Man City win league title without De Bruyne. 18-19 season, the 98-97 point where Liverpool missed out on the point. De Bruyne was injured for pretty much that whole season, and Man City won the domestic treble. Of course, he makes them better, but for me, in terms of when you look at like who can play in their position when they're out, for me, Rodri. When you look at Calvin Phillips, Kovacic, they're good players. Of course, they are on their day, but they're not Rodri. Both of them combined, they don't make one Rodri. So for me, Arsenal, they got a chance on Sunday. This is a real chance where Man City, obviously, De Bruyne is injured, but he's been out for a while now. But Rodri is the last game of his 3-match ban. I feel Arsenal, like, is getting to a point where, like, when you're going to beat Man City, like, it has to happen sometime soon. So, I don't know. But obviously, Saka being out. If Saka was fit, so if Saka was fit, I would have probably gone. I was going to go Arsenal 2-1 win, but I'm going to go 1-1 draw.
So after all that, you're going to sit on the fence and go 1-1?
Yeah, because Saka is not there. I was going to go 2-1 Arsenal. I had 2-1 Arsenal on my drafts, but 1-1.
I agree with a lot of what, but how can Saka be injured already but still be selected for England?
Yeah, Saka shouldn't be.
I don't get that. You know that. But I'm going for. It's at the Emirates, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going for an Arsenal win because of the reasons you said, Sion, but also because of the reason Rice will be pulled off at half time to give Arsenal a better chance. 2-1 Arsenal.
Go on, Rosanford.
I'm gonna go 1-1. I'm gonna go for a draw.
Sticking with you, Man United, Brentford.
Can I just say something? If
yeah.
I'm allowed to change my mind when we put my predictions in.
Yeah.
Slides,
Yeah, you could. Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, you can. It's up to
Because
you.
obviously
Go
I'm
on.
always the comedy genius. How could Arsenal beat Man City? That's a joke. But anyway, 2-1 Arsenal. Go on.
Rosanford, Man United, Brentford.
I think it's gonna be a boring game. I think it's gonna go 0-0. Probably one of the driest games of Old Trafford.
James.
I think Brentford have a good defence. I think United are desperate. I agree with that. I don't think it'd be possibly 1-0, 2-0. I'd go 1-0 United.
I'm gonna go 2-1. 2-1 Man United. Burnley, Chelsea. I'll go 2-0. Another 2-0. 2-0 Chelsea. James.
Burnley, Chelsea at Burnley.
At Burnley.
They're coming off the back of a good win at Luton Town. Some say lucky win.
I didn't even watch the game. Did any of you watch that, by the way? Did you watch that? By the way? I didn't watch it.
No. Burnley at home. I don't think they've had a home win, but they've been well and truly battered by like Tottenham, I think, didn't they?
They were unlucky to lose to United, though.
Man
Remember,
City.
they remember the chances they missed against United. They were unlucky not to take something from that.
I could go a draw, but I fancy Chelsea 2-1.
Rosanford.
I'm gonna go 1-1.
And back to James. Big one on Sunday, London Stadium at home to Newcastle.
Right. The biggest game on Sunday, yes. Well, I want to credit, and we haven't mentioned it, and we should have to really, even though they're not a London club, but what a terrific result for Newcastle yesterday. What an atmosphere at St James's Park, as you would expect. But what a moment. What an evening for them. And the reason I'm mentioning it is I think that could work in West Ham's favour, because they would have done a lot of energy there last night. I know West Ham are in Germany at the moment, so they've got to travel. But I think the joyous of like Wednesday night for Newcastle, they might come to West Ham. I'm not saying the team will come unprepared, but I think the fans might have a little bit of a feeling that they're going to win comfortably. But I think West Ham are playing well at the London Stadium. They played well against Man City, even though they lost to Man City at the London Stadium. They did play well. They were 1-0 up at half time, so they did play well. So I fancy West Ham to win it. I fancy West Ham to nick it, maybe 2-1.
Rosanford.
I'm gonna go for 2-2. I think it'll be a good game. I think there'll be a lot of goals in it. I think it'll be very end to end.
Okay, and me, I agree with James in terms of obviously Newcastle, fantastic win against PSG. I missed the game because I don't think I've told Rosanford, but James, I had a pub crawl. One of our uni societies, the rugby team, they arranged pub crawl last night where we went to like 8-9 pubs, and you have to drink in every pub. So I missed the game. Funnily enough, that went on till 2 a.m.
Hang on a second. The rugby team.
Our rugby team. They arranged like a pub crawl for like all the sports societies.
What position do you play in rugby?
No. It's not just for the rugby team. It's for all the sports societies. Like whether you're sports
any excuse. There we go. Subscribers. Any excuse for Sion to get on it.
No.
And
So
now he's trying to describe
because of that,
thinking no one knows what that is. Oh, I see.
Because of that, I missed the Newcastle game, but I saw some of the goals on the pub highlights. But I'm gonna go with West Ham 2-1 win as well. I agree with James.
Yes.
In terms of like
well, I know we're recording this by the European. Brighton have got a 2-2 draw away from home Marseille. That's a good result for them. West Ham 1-2-1. So another win in Europe for West Ham. So doing very well. So that'll take their confidence in. Yeah, but big game on Sunday against Newcastle.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go 2-1 West Ham win as well. For that game. But yeah, any final thoughts before we wrap up?
No, just to add, on behalf of yourself, Sion, and Rosanford, our condolences to the Leyton Orient fan that tragically lost his life in the game the other night, last night, I think it was. Suffered a heart attack, cardiac arrest, and was a big supporter of Leyton Orient, which is a fellow London club. and even did some work for Leyton Orient with their Tannoy system and all of that years ago. So our thoughts and prayers and that are with his family and Leyton Orient Football Club at this time. Very difficult time for them.
All right. On that note, we'll wrap it up there. So thanks everyone for watching. Like, subscribe, and share. We'll see you all again soon.